begin with a developing story out of Venezuela, where the government claims to have thwarted a coup attempt. Venezuelan authorities say they seized 400 US rifles and arrested 6 foreigners. Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello alleges the individuals were part of a CIA-orchestrated plan. Their target, President Nicolas Maduro. Cabello directly linked the alleged plot to US and Spanish intelligence agencies. He also implicated opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. These accusations further escalate diplomatic tensions. Venezuela frequently blames foreign powers for interfering in its affairs. This incident marks a significant escalation in Venezuela's ongoing political crisis. It raises concerns about further instability and violence. The international community is closely watching as details emerge. 6 individuals were apprehended in connection with the alleged plot. 3 are Americans, 2 are Spaniards, and 1 is a Czech citizen. US officials have confirmed one of the Americans is a US Navy sailor. Venezuelan authorities claim the group planned to carry out violent acts to destabilize the country, ultimately targeting President Maduro. Details remain scarce. However, the Venezuelan government claims to possess evidence linking the arrested individuals to the alleged conspiracy. They cite the seized weapons, communication records, and alleged confessions as proof of their involvement. But they have not publicly released any concrete evidence. The arrests have sparked outrage from the families of those detained. They deny any involvement in illegal activities. They accuse the Venezuelan government of fabricating charges for political gain. The families are calling for their immediate release.
The US State Department has categorically denied any involvement in the alleged plot against Maduro. They call the accusations false and baseless. The US government asserts that it does not support any efforts to overthrow the Venezuelan government through violence. US officials have confirmed the detention of a US military member, but they have not disclosed their identity, nor have they released details regarding their presence in Venezuela. The US is demanding consular access to the detained Americans. They're expressing concern for their well-being under Venezuelan custody. The US continues to recognize opposition leader Juan Guaido as the legitimate interim president of Venezuela. This stance further strains relations between the two countries. The US has imposed sanctions on Venezuelan officials, seeking to pressure Maduro's government and force new elections. Section 4. International reactions and implications. The international community is closely monitoring the situation in Venezuela. Governments worldwide are urging restraint. They're calling for a peaceful resolution to the political crisis. The Organization of American States has expressed deep concern over the arrests. The OAS calls for due process and respect for human rights. Spain also denies any involvement in the alleged plot. They're demanding the immediate release of its 2 citizens. The Spanish government accuses Venezuela of violating the detainees' rights. They're calling for an independent investigation. These arrests threaten to further isolate Venezuela on the international stage. They're likely to exacerbate diplomatic tensions, particularly with the US and Spain. This incident could also lead to increased sanctions and pressure on the Maduro regime. The result could be a deepening of Venezuela's economic and political crisis. Ongoing political crisis in Venezuela. Venezuela has been grappling with a political and economic crisis for years. The situation worsened after the disputed 2018 presidential election. Maduro was re-elected in a vote widely condemned as fraudulent. The opposition, led by Juan Guaido, considers Maduro's presidency illegitimate. They demand free and fair elections. The country faces hyperinflation. There are chronic shortages of basic goods and the healthcare system is collapsing. Millions of Venezuelans have fled the country. They're seeking better living conditions. This mass exodus has created a regional humanitarian crisis. The international community remains divided on how to address the Venezuelan crisis. Some countries support Guaido and call for Maduro's departure. Others, including Russia and China, continue to back the Maduro regime. These recent arrests and accusations of foreign involvement further complicate efforts to find a peaceful and lasting solution. Now turning to other news from around the globe.
India has launched its first nuclear-capable ballistic missile submarine. This development significantly boosts India's naval power.
In the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris is facing criticism for her handling of the economy. Critics argue her policies have failed to curb inflation or address rising costs.
The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has ruled that undated ballots cannot be counted.
These stories remind us of the complex and interconnected world we live in. We'll continue to follow these stories and more, bringing you the news that matters.